Have you ever wondered if there's such a thing as being too kind? It's a question that might raise some eyebrows. After all, kindness is universally applauded, painted in hues of selflessness and compassion. It's a virtue that's often encouraged, seen as a beacon of humanity in a world often too harsh. But what if I told you there's a paradox at the heart of kindness? A paradox that, like a two-sided coin, reveals the potential negative impacts of this seemingly positive trait. Yes, kindness in its excess can sometimes become a double-edged sword. It can lead to exploitation, loss of personal boundaries, fear of confrontation, and a host of other issues that we often overlook. The very act of being kind can in fact turn into a self-imposed trap. So let's delve into the 8 ways kindness might just be ruining your life. Firstly, kindness can make you susceptible to exploitation. It's a harsh truth that many of us have learned the hard way. Kind individuals with their hearts on their sleeves often become prime targets for manipulative people who see their goodwill as a weakness to be exploited. Imagine a person who is always ready to lend a helping hand, always ready to listen, always ready to give. This individual, in their earnest desire to be kind, may inadvertently attract those who see an opportunity in their generosity. These opportunists are drawn not by the kindness itself, but by the chance to take advantage of it. They see the kind person as someone who can be manipulated, who won't say no, who can be used for their own gain. It's an unfortunate reality that kindness, in its most genuine form, can be perceived as a weakness rather than a strength. Kindness, thus, can become a doorway to exploitation. Secondly, excessive kindness can lead to a loss of personal boundaries. It's a common tendency among overly kind individuals to put others' needs and desires before their own, often at the expense of their well-being. This self-sacrificing nature, while noble, can lead to a blurring of personal boundaries, where one's sense of self becomes entangled with the needs and expectations of others. A simple act of kindness can gradually transform into a habit of self-neglect. The line between being helpful and being taken for granted becomes increasingly blurred. It's like losing yourself in a maze of other people's emotions, needs, and expectations, forgetting that you too have your own needs to attend to, your own emotions to manage. This isn't to say that kindness is a flaw, quite the contrary. It's a virtue that we should all strive to cultivate. But like all things in life, it requires balance. Therefore, kindness sometimes blurs the line between selflessness and self-neglect. Thirdly, being overly kind often means avoiding confrontations. It's like seeing a storm on the horizon, and instead of preparing for it, you turn your back and pretend it's a sunny day. This avoidance can lead to unresolved issues that simmer beneath the surface like a volcano waiting to erupt. It's not that the issues aren't there, they're just buried under a blanket of false tranquility. Consider this. When we choose kindness over confrontation, we suppress our true feelings. This suppression can be as subtle as a sigh or as explosive as a scream, but it's there, lurking in the shadows of our interactions. We may laugh off a hurtful comment or let an unfair situation slide, all in the name of being kind. But this isn't genuine kindness, it's fear disguised as kindness. In this way, kindness might be the cause of your fear of confrontations. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's worth considering as we navigate the complex landscape of human connections. Fourthly, kindness often comes with the dilemma of expectation. Let's delve into this. When we extend kindness towards others, it's a natural human tendency to anticipate a similar response. We unconsciously set ourselves up for the expectation of reciprocity. It's like tossing a ball into the air and waiting for it to come back down. But the world doesn't always work in this way. Not everyone will repay our kindness. And this is where the cycle of expectation and disappointment begins. This cycle can be draining, leading to feelings of resentment and disillusionment. It's akin to throwing the ball into the air and it never coming back down. We start to question our actions, our worth, even our very nature of being kind. This uncertainty, this doubt can be profoundly destabilizing. Kindness, therefore, can bring about the pain of unmet expectations. Fifthly, kindness can trap you in a cycle of people-pleasing. Like a hamster in a wheel, you might find yourself running tirelessly, attempting to cater to the needs and desires of others. You see, the overly kind individual often feels a compulsion, a deep-seated obligation, to make everyone around them happy. But what happens when you strive to please everyone? You spread yourself too thin. You lose sight of your own desires, your own needs, and your own identity. You become a mirror, reflecting the desires of others, rather than a window, showcasing your own aspirations. The stress builds up, a silent burden that weighs heavily on your shoulders. Moreover, in your quest to please, you may inadvertently sacrifice your own happiness and well-being. You are not a commodity, but a person with your own unique identity and personal boundaries. This reveals how kindness can turn you into a perpetual people-pleaser. And that, my dear listeners, is a trap from which it's hard to escape. Sixthly, kindness can burden you with emotional labor. When we extend our kindness, we often find ourselves becoming the emotional support system for others. We absorb their worries, their sadness, their disappointments, and their fears. We become the confidants, the listeners, the shoulders to cry on. But this emotional labor, this constant processing and managing of others' emotions, can lead to a state of emotional exhaustion. It's like carrying a heavy bag filled with emotions that are not even ours. While it's noble and empathetic to share in others' emotional experiences, it's crucial to recognize that we have our own emotional health to maintain. We can't pour from an empty cup, can we? So while extending our kindness, we need to ensure that we're not neglecting our own emotional well-being. So kindness can place a heavy emotional labor on your shoulders. Seventh, kindness can lead to self-sacrifice and resentment. Let's delve into this further. Have you ever found yourself going out of your way, sacrificing your own needs, all in the name of being kind to others? Well, you're not alone. This is a common trait among overly kind individuals. In the grand scheme of life, it's easy to get caught up in the needs and wants of others, often to the detriment of our own. But what happens when this kindness, this self-sacrifice, becomes a pattern? It leads to resentment. This is because the more we give, the more we tend to expect in return. And when those expectations aren't met, resentment creeps in. Over time, this resentment can fester, creating a bitter aftertaste to our acts of kindness. This resentment is not towards the people we are kind to, but towards our own selves for neglecting our needs. In this way, kindness can foster resentment. Eighth, and finally, kindness can create a risk of dependence. An overly kind individual can inadvertently become the crutch others lean on, causing a ripple effect of dependency. This dependency is not limited to physical support, but it extends to emotional and psychological realms as well. It's like a well-meaning gardener who waters a plant too much, preventing the plant's roots from growing deep and strong. This over-nurturing can undermine the independence and self-reliance of the people on the receiving end of the kindness. They may start to rely heavily on the kind individual for emotional support, decision-making, and even their self-worth. Over time, these individuals may struggle to stand on their own feet, to make decisions without external input, or to validate their own worth. This is not to say that kindness is harmful. It is, after all, one of the most beautiful human traits, but like everything else, it needs to be balanced. Thus, kindness can unintentionally foster dependence. In summary, kindness, while a virtue, can have unintended negative consequences. We've journeyed through the paradox, how it can open doors to exploitation, blur personal boundaries, instill fear of confrontation, create expectations, lay traps of people-pleasing, burden us with emotional labor, and breed resentment through self-sacrifice. But here's the Stoic perspective. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that values virtue, wisdom, and self-control, teaches us that kindness is vital, but it must be balanced. It's about being kind, yes, but not at the cost of our own well-being. It's about setting personal boundaries, saying no when necessary, and taking care of our own emotional health. Stoics believed in the importance of kindness, but they also believed in maintaining their own peace and tranquility. So, let's be kind, but let's also be kind to ourselves. Remember, it's not about abandoning kindness, but about understanding its potential downsides and finding balance.